Let that mind be in you. Humbling yourself, so you don't say something to your wife that you want to. No, that's all the time. And actually, it goes even deeper than that. It's not just a matter of saying something you don't want to say, but saying what Christ would say. No, we're in a whole different ballgame. That's over there. See, the way I see it is that the incarnation, I'm going to make it clear when I say this, I could support it scripturally, but I still feel like I'm saying it. Okay. That the incarnation is an expression of God's glory. We beheld his glory as of the only begotten. I mean, we had already, always looked at glory in terms of the cosmic, things popping like crazy, As far as God's concerned, I want to take that, and I want you to see me. I want you to see the glory of God. What God calls the glory of God. Look around, team, because this is it. I mean, I don't want to burst any bubbles here for those of us who are going to sleep at night with stars flashing and woo. That's not what it's about. It's about Christ in us, the hope of glory. It's so simple, it's ridiculous. The thing is, we've never been taught. Nobody's ever spoken about the glory of God contained in the human form. People are starting to talk about the incarnate church, but not in the same way that God sees the incarnate church. Anyway, there's one of our fathers, St. Cyril of Jerusalem, 4th century mystic. He said this, and I really like it. He said, Christ's first coming, referring to the incarnation, Christ's first coming was to fulfill his plan of love, to teach by gentle persuasion. One of the reasons I really like this brother's only 300 years from the event. I mean, he's close. 300 years is close to the cross compared to where we're at 2,000 years later. And I don't know the last time you heard somebody from a pulpit someplace or whatever heard somebody say when they talk about the incarnation. Generally, what the church has held onto is Jesus Christ came because we're sinners to die for our sins at the cross. So, they go right down that line real quick and real heavy and really hot. And this that's true. But the way he sees the first coming was to fulfill a plan of love. These are bigger strokes now, the kinds of things we're talking about with incarnation. And then he says to teach by gentle persuasion. And I really like that. Wish I could do that. Anyway, 2 Old Testament stories, because I want to say this, that all the New Testament writers, all the New Testament guys, they had Old Testament precedents for the incarnation. We didn't have incarnations per se, but we had a precedent. And I'll explain what that means. So we're going to take 2 Old Testament precedents that would have been helpful for all of our New Testament writers kind of getting their head around fully God, fully man thing. Somebody have Genesis 18 in front? You got it? Would you just read the first 2 verses?
Then the Lord appeared to him by the terebinth trees of Mamre, as he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day. So he lifted his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing by him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the ground.
So this is talking about Abraham when the 3 men show up. And the thing is, as you read through 18 and 19 both, you'll see that there's constantly being referred to as the 3 men, the 3 men, the 3 men. We know that they're angels because it also calls them angels. So what we've got are angels appearing in human form. Abraham recognizes something about them. He sees. Abraham, he sees. He's a seer. He can see these things. To anybody else, they might have looked like just 3 guys. What I'm trying to say is that there's nothing unusual about these 3 men. As you read through 18 and 19, when the 2 of them out of the 3 go to Sodom and Gomorrah, nobody in Sodom and Gomorrah looks at them and says, "Oh, look at those angels." They just look like a couple of guys that showed up. More people to be involved in their perverse lifestyle. That's the way that it's described. But Abraham sees something. They're angelic beings that have taken on human form. This idea of angels taking on human form, the Jews were very familiar with. Throughout the entire Old Testament, you can read of various places where the angel of the Lord or an angel or whatever took on human form. So there's a bit of a precedent of some kind of a spiritual being by God's ordination, being able to take on flesh and look just like them. So, there's a bit of a precedent there. Like I say, it's not incarnation, but these angels that are considered agents of the Lord, they're throughout the whole Old Testament. But the whole idea of an angel is a messenger, but it's a messenger who's task-oriented. In other words, the word angel itself in Hebrew is almost the same word as the word work. So an angel doesn't come so that everybody goes, wow, it's an angel. It's like, yeah, whatever. This is what I'm here to do. He's task-oriented. I'm here to do something. I'm here to say something. Very real. Something that could not happen without me. This is kind of the nature of the angelic ministry, if you would. An angel's a messenger, task-oriented, takes on physical form, manifestation of God's will and concerns. That's the best way I could think of wording it. And everybody who encountered, whether it was Hagar in Genesis 16, Manoah and his wife with Samson in Judges 30, no matter where you see it, every time, even Abraham here, when they come across these angels, we come across angels, because of who they are as a manifestation of God's will, as ambassadors, if you would, messengers, representatives, they are treated and looked at like God himself. If they say something, that's it. God said it. It's not the angel talking, it's God. They're on assignment. When they do something, it's not the angel, it's God. And that's the way they related in the Old Testament. Let's read these couple scriptures about angels, though. Hebrews 1, verses 13 and 14.
And God never said to any of the angels, sit in the place of honor at my right hand until I humble your enemies, making them a footstool under your feet. Therefore angels are only servants, spirits sent to care for people who will inherit salvation.
Who is us? We get to inherit salvation. So they're here, they're sent to help us. That's nice. I think that's really cool. And at the other end of Hebrews, chapter 13, verse 2.
Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares.
That's a really nice way of saying it.
Yeah.
You should really be paying more attention to strangers because you don't know if you're dealing with an angel. They've been known to be sent in human form. Abraham is called a friend of God in several places in the scriptures. In the same chapter, I'm going to tie something together now. In the same chapter, Genesis 18, would somebody read verses 16 through 19?
And the men rose up from thence and looked toward Sodom. And Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do? Seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment. And the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken of him.
So should I tell Abraham what I'm about to do? He's a good guy. He's going to live for me. I know that. He's going to be obedient and faithful and bada bing, bada bang, the whole thing. Should I tell him or shouldn't I? John 15:15.
I no longer call you slaves, for a master doesn't confide in his slaves. Now you are my friends. Prove the fact that I have told you everything the Father told me.
Those go together quite nicely. He's my friend. Of course I'm going to tell him. He's not going to like what he hears because he's a man of God. What man of God would like to hear that a people group is going to be annihilated? Don't answer that question because there's parts of the church that wouldn't have a problem with that at all. But God is saying, do I tell him or don't I? Jesus says, of course I tell you, you're my friend. Abraham's my friend. Friends communicate. The point being, this first point that I want to walk away with Genesis 18 is that the incarnation is a communication, obviously. The nature of incarnation is communication. Now that's what we've been talking about with Revelation to know something. God's communicating something. That we might know him, that we might know the truth. Still in Genesis 18, verse 21. This is after he's made the decision he is going to tell Abraham what he's up to.
I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which is come unto me, and if not, I will know.
The heck is that about? So, this is the Lord saying, I was in heaven and the cries were coming up to me. And I said, okay, so I'll go down and see what's going on. Now, what is that about? I mean, can he see from heaven?
And if not,
I've heard it in heaven. It's been, who's been crying it out? He's heard the cries in heaven. Okay? Well, that is all. We can talk about that for a while, the conjecture of that. Who's crying out? That's not the point is that he said, so, I'll go down and see what's going on. That to me is the strongest thing in the chapter that I could preach on incarnation. Because we know that God in heaven sees and knows all. He doesn't need to come down here to see anything. He knows before it happens what's going to happen. That is not a God statement. I will go down and see what it's like down there. That is down the line. Him saying very clearly, I mean, to me it's real clear. I'm going to go down, take on human form. Because see, that's the way we are. We have to go someplace to see what's going on. Even if we hear what's going on, we go and we see what's going on. He is not describing a divine thing. I mean, he is, but he isn't. I mean, who could descend from heaven except he who ascended? That's what Jesus says. I'll descend from heaven, go down there and see what's going on, and then I'll know what's going on. That's crazy. To me, it's a very clear indication that at that point, God is saying, I'm going to go down and in a human way, humanly, see what's going on, experience it myself, hear the cries of people, the pain, sexual abuse, all kinds of stuff that was going on. It was a nasty, nasty place, Sodom and Gomorrah. Very nasty. We're rivaling it today. We're working on it, aren't we? We're getting there. Give us a few hundred more years, we'll have this thing sussed. You can read the same kind of thing, by the way, in Genesis 11 with the Tower of Babel. We're not going to go there today, but you can. You can go to Genesis 11, and it says, what are they doing down there? They're building a tower. They're trying to build a tower to heaven. I'm going to go down there and see what's going on. It's crazy. What do you mean you're going to go down and see? Can you see, Jesus saying to his father, what do you mean you're going down? You can't see from here? I thought you were omnipotent, omnipresent, and omni-everything.